DCS has been designed around the requirements of fingerprint photographers from all over the world and has gradually evolved over time, adding new features and functions to meet the many challenges of fingerprint photography. What many people may not know about the DCS is that in fact it was the very first digital forensic imaging system of its kind. When we originally released the product way back in the year 2000, almost every fingerprint photographer on the planet was still using film-based cameras to capture prints. And while the quality of the image they could produce was very high, everything else about the process was painstakingly slow. Photographers would be shooting blind with no preview image, and the resulting pictures would need to be developed before they could be submitted for identification. On top of this, the storage, archiving and management of years and years worth of fingerprint photography took up a huge amount of space and resources. So it was clear that a switch to digital had to happen, but it took a system with the quality of the DCS to convince photographers worldwide to make the change.
But digital technology has got much more serious applications too, like helping in the fight against crime. Despite advances like DNA testing, the main forensic evidence to convict criminals is still the good old fingerprint. The methods of taking and saving fingerprints haven't changed much over the years, but in the search for the telltale digit, one police force thinks there may now be a digital solution. Nick Baker investigates.
Esther Neat is an expert in finding what are called latent fingerprints, the telltale marks that can't be detected at the scene of a crime. A variety of chemical processes are used to reveal fingerprints that aren't visible to the naked eye. For example, a print treated with yellow dye is revealed by fluorescent light. Once a fingerprint is found, it's vital to make a photographic record of the evidence before the original print deteriorates.
So how long would this process take from having your evidence to the final picture of it?
If you're looking at something like this, at least 24 hours to actually have a photographic print in your hand.
Well, why does it take so long?
Well, it's black and white film, so it has to be processed by hand through traditional photographic methods. You can't just put the film in one end and hope it comes out the other end looking like a nice photograph. So it's chemical bars and all the rest of it, not on top of all the processing time of the actual fingerprint.
Esther's frustration at the conventional forensic methods led her to develop a new technological solution to finding and recording fingerprints.
Our colleague Esther Neat has worked with Foster+Freeman developing the DCS system and providing training to customers worldwide for the past 20 years. In fact, she actually did the very first installation to the City of London Police back in the year 2000. Her experience and digital photography expertise are unmatched in the world of forensics. And if any of you out there watching today have had the pleasure of being trained by Esther, you'll know that she, in combination with the DCS, genuinely has a solution for almost every fingerprint imaging problem, no matter how tricky it may seem at first glance.
The DCS as a technology began over 25 years ago, and it was part of a research and development project in my own laboratory. Now, to understand why so much work was involved in developing this new technology, we had to put ourselves back into an era where we have no internet, no mobile phones, and very little in the way of digital technology. Digital cameras were very expensive, so to get something at 4 megapixel on a single capture camera would cost you at least £30,000. The technology, the quality simply wasn't good enough. Also, everybody perceived digital as dangerous. And by dangerous, I mean it was something that could easily be manipulated, be changed, and nobody wants to go to court with a new technology that's untried, untested, and worst of all, is perceived to be easily manipulated or changed. Now, on top of that, we've got the issue of image enhancement, particularly the use of Fourier transforms and removing background patterns. And those techniques were actively discouraged and frowned upon within the forensic community as something dangerous, something that could actually distort fingerprint ridges. So when we started looking at digital, we did it because I had a case in 1994 where we had a perfectly good fingerprint developed with ninhydrin, but unfortunately it was on a £5 banknote. And using traditional photography, we were unable to remove the background pattern. But I was aware of the technology. I knew that with digital, it was possible. This piece of evidence I was having to throw in the bin, I could use, take to court, and hopefully solve crime. And that was the basis of digital. But to make that happen, nobody else was going to do it. I had to be the first person to take it to court, use it on real cases. But even more than that, if I was going to use image enhancement, I had to go back to university. I studied in the evenings doing night courses with the Open University, particularly in the study of physics, Fourier transforms, and digital technology. The end result of that was that we decided to go ahead and develop and use the technology on real cases in court, which is what we did. We started using it, we kept all of our original exhibits, we put into the system a process called image authentication. Because of this accusation that digital could be so easily manipulated or changed, we incorporated a government guideline recommending the use of authentication technology for digital images in court. We incorporated that into the system and we started using digital on real cases. And the result of that was the technology became accepted, it became widely used, and the DCS today has become a kind of industry standard, a top technology that can be used to develop fingerprints for court. And what's so unusual is that this as a technology was developed by a police force, in a police force, and all of the enhancement techniques, the lighting techniques, the photographic techniques were developed on hundreds and hundreds of real cases in a real working environment. And it's this use of the technology which has enabled it to become the leading system for digital imaging today.
And that's what fingerprint photography is all about. Finding solutions to the problems that different items of evidence can present. Now, at a glance, the DCS system may look a little bit daunting. There are lots of individual components and a ton of accessories, including camera lenses, filters, and lighting attachments. But you won't be surprised to hear that every one of these components has a specific purpose and has been designed to solve a specific problem. When we visit customers, they will often hand us their trickiest piece of evidence saying, "See what you can do with that." Typically, when we visit a fingerprint customer for the first time, we often find that they may not be aware of the many advanced techniques and tricks that the DCS is capable of. In fact, during DCS demonstrations, it's amazing how many of the customers will say, "I never knew that," or "I've learnt something new today." The DCS really is at the cutting edge of fingerprint technology.